Hello, guest. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing quite well.
Why should we buy your thing?
Because it's the best thing you'll ever hear ever in all of the time ever.
Neat. This is brought to you by Audible.
Is it really?
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Mad Sounds podcast. We talk about music and other whatevers. Today, I have an interesting guest here. It's my first time recording an episode IRL with microphones and the crap. You may have seen him in a video of mine last year when we talked about my cringy first review. Now he's got a band and an EP. The band's called Daybreaker. We'll talk about it a little bit later. And by later, I mean just a couple minutes. Mr. Cristian Marsella, how you doing?
Hi, Mark. I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for having me on. Mad Sounds. I didn't know it was called that until just now, and I like it.
Really?
I approve. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I mean, I've been having it for about 2 years, but okay, fake fan. That's cool.
I feel bad now.
You can't be a part of my sponsor now.
I know. I was gonna say a bad start.
Okay. You have music though. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So I did mention when I was talking about my favorite EPs of 2016 earlier this year that you actually put out an EP then that I kind of decided to include, among what I mentioned because it's pretty good. Starts with what you're doing. It was kind of more of an electronic leading project that was just under your own name. And this time around, you actually got a band.
Yep.
And would you mind saying a little bit about that before I get a little more specific?
Yeah, totally. So the
elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch for Daybreaker. Okay, so the band has basically been there since day one, even of the EP. Or maybe not since day one, but since
they broke on day one.
Yes, that's wow.
You're lucky the drum pads are on the other side of the room, or else I would have rimshotted that so hard.
Oh man, that's too bad. Wow, that would have been great. So basically, the way this whole Daybreaker thing got off the ground is I released my solo EP, which you just mentioned, and I put it up on Bandcamp, and I think literally the next day I got an email from a booking agent that works for some company that I won't mention, and he said, I really, really like your EP, like how would you like to play at the Queen Bee in North Park on this date?
Oh, so it actually started with that show.
Yes. So I said, yes, I would love to do that. And he mentioned we have to fill out, I think, a half an hour segment. And I said, well, I have for my own solo stuff, I have about 15 minutes. So I could do half of that. But I said, I have this group of people that I've been playing with for a little bit, and we have songs that I've written and kind of workshopped with them, and we could fill out the second half. So what if I started as a solo and then the second half was the band? And he said, sure, that sounds great. So that's how Daybreaker started.
Cool. And the other place where I've kind of briefly mentioned Daybreaker, just your music in general, is in one of those vinyl videos I did a couple months ago. I'm not sure if you know, but I talked about all the records I got at the record booths at this Queen Bee's Beatles Fair thing, which is the show you're talking about, right?
Well, actually, no. The show I'm talking about was last year at the Queen Bee. I think you were actually at that one too.
Yeah.
Remember that one a long time ago?
Because Queen Bee is actually where I've done my only. Actually, it's not my only gig, but I'd like to think it's my only gig because the other one is that disastrous one.
The rooftop one?
That one I detailed in that episode with Crash Thompson last July. You guys can listen to that. It's I don't want to relive that.
Well, for anyone listening,
so I consider this Queen Bee's one the only real gig I've done. But yeah, it was pay to play. I ended up paying $120 because I couldn't sell any tickets, but I guess it was worth it.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, you have like a giant Italian family, so
yeah.
Your words, not mine.
I'll attribute it to that. Oh, did I say that?
You basically said that at one point.
No, that's fine. I don't deny that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what? It is coming to mind. I'm not sure if the Daybreaker name was there yet. I think it was still under your own name.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's the whole thing. So at that first show about a year ago, we were under Moonraker. Our name was Moonraker for a while, which I really like.
It's a little more indie sounding.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've always liked that name, but then we kind of found out there was this band that was relatively big that was touring the U.S. currently under the Moonraker name. So we're like, let's just not.
It did sound a little familiar.
Be a whole thing. So we changed it to Daybreaker, which I also like. Yeah, but we were under Daybreaker at the Beatles festival show.
Yeah, because I did actually, so I saw both, I guess, incarnations. The first one being when it was just under your name. Like for the first half, it was basically what I did at my show there, which is, you on guitar and then like backing tracks behind you.
Yeah.
Which like how sustainable did you think that was? Because I couldn't see myself doing that for more shows than I did it for.
Yeah, no, it was a really cool thing to do once. And it was a challenge, actually, because, I don't know, one would think, once you hear the word backing track, that it's a cop-out. It's kind of as challenging as you want to make it. You can include as much backing track as you want.
Because things that you can't like feed off band members, because you're just basically, in my case, you're just playing stuff from an aux cord in your iPhone. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you had a better setup than that.
Well, maybe a little bit, but that's all
that's
all boring stuff. But yeah, what I wanted to do with that is kind of challenge myself and take out as much as I could from the backing tracks and make it as skeletal as possible, so that when I was up there, I had to do things like a bunch of looping and reverb and delay, or just kind of improv to fill out the sound as much as I could. And that was a cool exercise.
Yeah, whereas I just extracted the instrumental tracks from Acid Music Studio and went from there.
Yeah, but that's fine too. You're also singing and I'm not, so that's...
Yeah. So that's kind of the other thing, is that your music is for the more electronic leaning stuff, it's more common for it to be instrumental. Like, I actually talked to, a few months ago, I guess my first like artist interview on the podcast side of things was with this guy, 256 Pi, aka the Wonky Angle on YouTube, that was more of an electronic producer, and he put out this big ambitious double album of a whole bunch of electronic music styles. Obviously, I guess it was all instrumental. I don't think he did any singing or anything like that. But I guess in the rock sphere, it's a little more interesting, and I kind of like that was the direction you went in. So you put out this EP last year, Surfacing, which I generally liked. But though that said, I feel like with a couple of the songs that you transferred over to this Daybreaker EP, it really benefits from having that extra instrumentation. So you brought on. So you brought on a bassist and a drummer. The bassist I know, Anthony.
Yep, Anthony Sylvester. Shout out.
Yeah. We were actually initially going to have him on, but he got his own.
Yeah, there's some complications with that. Yeah. It's not even. Yeah.
And funny thing, actually, this might seem like a weird diversion, but I do kind of want to talk about how we met, because it's kind of related to Anthony.
Yes.
So basically, we met at shout out to Mira Costa College in Oceanside. Yep. They're cool.
Oh yeah.
So what I specifically remember from my perspective, I'm not sure if we go on over this in depth yet.
Okay.
But this was back in like late 2014, I want to say.
Yeah. That sounds right.
And I was, most of the reason, really, I wear band shirts as often as I do, if you look at my closet, there's like 80% of them back there. Most of the reason I wear band shirts is just to have a super recognizable thing to start a conversation, because I can't have a meaningful connection with someone about anything else other than music.
That's fine.
And media. So I was just kind of walking around the area, or not really sure what to do with the rest of my day. And then you were like, "Hey, I like your Muse shirt."
Yeah.
And I was wearing my Muse shirt, which you guys may have seen in a few videos, the Second Law shirt. And you're a fellow person that's forgiving about the Second Law, which is cool.
Maybe I think you might actually be more forgiving than I am. But,
I'm more forgiving than most people.
I am forgiving.
But then again, I make up for it by being less forgiving of drones.
Well, I think now we're very much on the same page on that one.
Yeah, it definitely soured on you more. But anyway, so we kind of talked a little bit, and then I forgot if he was already there at that like canopy table area. Yeah. So there's this other guy there that was Anthony, and what I remembered about 2 minutes in is like, holy crap, this guy was in my Boy Scout troop.
Yeah.
So it's like I technically knew him longer, but I've just, because of class schedules, I've just been hanging out with you more.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was kind of a weird worlds collide moment right there.
Muse brings people together.
Yeah. And then, after I graduated with Mira Costa, we've been kind of, talking like every few months basically. But, I brought you over for this, for that Journey review reaction.
Yes, which was very fun.
And then, going to each other's shows here and there. And then I'm actually going to be moving up to Long Beach in a little bit. You happen to be going to Cal State Long Beach. That may or may not have influenced my decision. I don't know. But just I'm not totally alone in this world. And then
never.
Yeah. And I figured like, hey, I'm going up to Long Beach. Let's record a podcast in real life. And you said, no, wait. You know what? I'm down here anyway.
Yep. So back in good old Oceanside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might cut some of that out. I'm not sure how interesting it is to you guys, but there you go, a little bit of background information. So anyway, so you got on vocals, guitar, piano. You got Anthony on bass, and you're your drummer again?
Yep, my cousin Daniel Norelli.
Right. Oh yeah, I remember him at seeing at when it was the like the solo quote unquote show.
Yep.
Like when it was or Moonraker, whatever you want to call it, the first show.
Yes.
I remember like during that Surfing Sucks, is that the name of the song?
Yeah, that's
I remember especially during that song being like, this guy's insane. And actually during that time, I was looking for a drummer to play on a couple tracks on my own album, which I'm going to be announcing formally soon. May or may not be before this podcast comes out, I'm not entirely sure. But at the time, I was looking at him and I just like low-key asked you after the show, like, does he do session drumming? You know,
Yeah.
and I wound up getting someone else, but
Yeah.
it's like anything that gives you that thought, you know, definitely a good sign.
Totally. Yeah, no, he's a great drummer, and he's like just a natural drummer, never taken a lesson in his life, and just kind of picked up the drums one day because he wanted to. And so that's pretty rare, I think.
Yeah. Now, the song that I think shows kind of the best evolution of everything was Surfacing, because it being the title track on that first EP, and then coming over and then re-recording it for this Stop Talking EP for Daybreaker that just came out. What kind of influenced the decision to go to this song specifically to revisit for this? Did you always have like a full band setup in mind? I think I'll play a little clip of it as we're talking about it.
Sure, yeah. Well, Surfacing is unique in that it's easily the oldest song in my repertoire, my band's repertoire. And kind of at one point in around 2013, maybe a little bit more, is when I kind of decided, all right, I'm going to really try to record music, do this music thing, and see where it goes. And there's a few passages or riffs throughout Surfacing, but those were kind of the first things I ended up recording and wanting to make something out of. And then I realized I wanted to put out some kind of solo
social commentary piece.
Yes.
Instrumental.
Yeah, basically my music is just a platform for my political agenda, so that's what it is. No, not at all. Put together a solo collection of songs, and I thought, okay, I have some stuff written for this unnamed track. I wanted to put something out relatively quickly, so I thought, okay, I'm going to do some kind of electronic composition of this song that I have. And that was kind of the baseline for the other things I did. But I always really, really liked that Surfacing track, and I thought, okay, one day I'm going to kind of make a different iteration of this song. So then when the band came together, I thought, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to flesh it out and add more instrumentation and layers and make it more powerful. And I'm happy because now I have these two versions of it.
Yeah, because just with the way that, like, because it's kind of mostly based around this one finger-picked kind of guitar riff, and then like the way it kind of rises and falls with like how intense the rhythm gets, like it definitely fits that full band setup a little bit more, I think.
I agree.
Especially with like again how like the drums get a little bit more intricate and complex as it goes along over its like 5.5 minute runtime.
Right.
Now again, I did kind of already go over these kinds of questions, but I am kind of fascinated by this with people that record instrumental-based music.
Yeah.
How do you generally go about like structuring this kind of stuff? Like, because I know like, you know, with the band you could probably jam it out and see where it goes, but for a song like Surfacing or something else from that first EP, like, is there like a process that you have for like mapping stuff out? Is it like a formal thing, or just kind of see where it goes?
Well, I would say kind of both. So it starts, every song that I write kind of starts with just a feeling, you know, in which the feeling that inspires a song, I think, is a little bit more obvious when the song has lyrics and singing.
Yeah, there's like a defined structure to it.
Yeah, or what the song is about, if you want to say that, comes through more clearly. But so Surfacing too started with a feeling that I wanted to convey, and as I wrote the song and as I workshopped it with the band, where it went, how the different passages blended into each other, the ups and downs of the song, kind of was just a sixth sense that I would kind of think of off the cuff. I was like, okay, so this is where I wanted to pick up a little bit. This is where I like sharply needed to kick into gear or get really loud, or then go back to something quiet. And it's really something that's hard to explain. It's just kind of a musical sense, if you will.
Right. Because I'm seeing like with like less restrictions, like you imagine it's a little easier to kind of overwhelm yourself with the options available at you. But yeah, like picking like the right moment for, like, for example, in that song, like when that fatter, meatier guitar sound comes in. It's
Yep.
maybe a little more early Muse influencer
Yeah.
versus when you want to go more for those moody guitar arpeggios that are maybe a little bit more Silversun pickups,
Totally.
And I noticed the influences for especially this EP are definitely basically a compilation of the bands we've talked about the most in our own conversations, like Muse, like Silversun pickups. Those are like the two main things, which is interesting. And I guess the reason why it fascinates me with the instrumental thing is that it's taking from bands that are in that more traditional rock lyrics based kind of world, and then translating it into that. I imagine isn't that easy of a task, because it'd be one thing if you were like in a post-rock band or something, where that's expected.
So that's a really good point, and something that I really was hoping you would touch upon, because it's really a deliberate thing. And yes, those influences are there, but there's also a bunch of other influences that whether, I don't know if you want me to get into those or not, but
feel free to name drop.
Sure, yeah. So I am really into those, as you mentioned, kind of traditional structure. Although I would say that
they subvert it a little. They definitely subvert at times, but you know what I mean. Like where there's more opportunities for an outline to pop up.
Exactly. Like chances are you put on a Muse song, there's a verse in the chorus.
Yeah.
So those influencers are there, but I also have plenty of other influences. Let's say in post rock, like you mentioned, like Godspeed You, Black Emperor, stuff like Explosions in the Sky. Even things like Sigur Rós, whatever.
I think it's Rós. Honestly, I only have like a vaguely passing notion of post-rock. That was just like the first thing in mind.
Yeah.
I'm such a poser.
Somebody listening who's a huge fanatic of Sigur Rós, really sorry. But their music, the structure, the kind of ethereal nature that they create in their music is something that's influential to me. Even things like Kate Bush, the incredibly influential 80s singer, artist, that you guys need to listen to. This is kind of a hard thing to explain, if you'll humor me.
Oh, listen, like one thing I want to go into, like if I go more into this musician interview thing on this is, because it's coming from my own point of view, where I spent like 10 months micromanaging the crap out of an album. Mm-hmm. Like I like hearing about those like super close details that not many other people would care about, that they are just like so passionate about getting exactly right. I because like with most musician interviews, you get these very general questions, very like overarching answers about man, I was just feeling it, but I just want to hear like how you got that, how you got like that one specific tone, like that one little timing issue in that one song. Yep. Maybe some listeners would kind of tune out at, but like any other like musicians listening, or like people interested in that whole world, be like, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Okay, great. I love to hear that. So I'll get.
So
into
I love that rabbit hole.
Okay, awesome. So basically,
it's like why I love Song Exploder so much.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's a great podcast too that everyone should check out.
Yeah.
When I look at music and what things are going on now, trends and what's popular, maybe not necessarily popular, but what is gathering discussion in the indie sphere, in the rock sphere. I think there's kind of a vacuum in rock music right now. I think there's there's styles that are on their way out that are considered uncool nowadays, and that's kind of your arena rock revival. Yeah,
or like any time that it's a quote rock thing, it's like 21 Pilots or Imagine Dragons, which like I'm a fan of a lot of those bands' stuff, but it's like when Lorde was getting rock awards at the VMAs, when there's literally no guitars in there at all.
Yeah, well, that is a good point.
It's like kind of an idea of like of it like totally diminishing, at least in the mainstream. Like I don't believe in any of those rock is dead things. Just because it was just because there aren't as many bands selling out stadiums from the past that are formed in the past decade or so. Like there's definitely those audiences there, but let me know if you're feeling a similar way. I feel like with the internet and stuff, like it's easier for those niches to form and not really feel the need to push it, over the top in order to find an audience.
Totally. That's a great point. I would agree with that for sure. And you brought up a good point with kind of 21 Pilots and what was the other one?
Imagine Dragons. Or just,
the
bands that are like dollar store versions of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
including current Imagine Dragons.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not I have to say I'm not a fan of those bands. In fact, you mentioned Lord. I much prefer Lord to those bands. But I see what you were saying in the context of rock and roll. Yeah. But what I was saying with this vacuum is that these bands, this style, and these bands that are on their way out, whether you want to, actually name them, like you could even put Muse in there, like stuff like Foo Fighters. Let's say this like over the top bombastic arena rock is on its way out. I think.
For sure. Yeah.
For sure. Right. And so kind of I was sitting there and like looking at the stuff that's really well known right now or kind of gathering a lot of discussion in indie music, and anything that's kind of over the top and bombastic, people kind of turn away from.
Yeah.
They don't want anything to do with it. And I don't think it needs to be that way.
Yeah, because you know what? I just put out this video just today on the new All Time Low album where like they're supposedly going more pop, going more for the charts and stuff, going for a more, I guess, what some people would describe as arena-friendly sound. But really what they did was just round out all the instruments and fill that space in the mix with just a bunch of electronic fluff. Whereas, like, on their last record, like, I see that as the ideal, like, chart topper, where, like, stuff was a lot more over the top and dramatic and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just strange to me, this idea that, like, if you want your rock music to hit that wider audience, you gotta, like, tone it down.
Yeah.
And, like, make your emotions, like, less confident and, like, be a little more, I don't know, like wimpy in your choices, which I just find boring,
For sure. And I think I understand where it's coming from. When an artist puts out this overblown like arena anthem, I could see how sometimes it comes off as a product, something that was kind of put
calculated.
Together. Yeah, very calculated, maybe not necessarily from the heart of the artist. But when I see bands put out something that is the production is clean, is professional, is, you could say, overblown and arena ready, that comes from a genuine place. For instance, immediately I think The Killers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
and really like the bands that have kind of broken through that have been inspired by them nowadays, like your Walk the Moons, you're like, I gotta close this window.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
I had a feeling this would happen. I hope the cars driving by hasn't been too much of an issue for you guys. I think so many chords to navigate around. This is going to be so sketchy.
I think the dogs
wish me luck.
The dogs just add to it.
Yeah. I had this running joke in my videos a couple years ago where like I would like yell at them, and eventually it climaxed in me joking about going over there and hurting them.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, we got to turn the fan up like one notch
so we might die.
Yeah. It's July in San Diego.
Yeah.
Hi, Editing Mark here. So I should probably say that at this point I was moving chords around, and afterwards I said, okay, now everything's in its right place. And now you get the context for the joke I'm about to say. Okay, have fun.
Oh, speaking of everything in its right place, what are your thoughts about Radiohead playing in Israel?
Tom York should do whatever the hell he wants.
And that's as far as into it as we'll go.
Exactly. Roger Waters, back off.
But yeah, like the bands that have influenced the Killers, especially like Walk the Moon, like Night Terrors 1927, Bad Sons, 1975, like a lot of those bands, I find like even though they're not like a super hard rock bands necessarily, they do capture a lot of that sort of unapologetic bombast, or like Bleachers are one of those, or Fun if you want to connect it through that, where it's just like not being afraid to be sincere, and which is what I feel like a lot of pop music now just kind of skirts around.
Yeah, totally. And I can't even really claim that I'm a big fan of all those bands you listed. I think that, obviously people are going to have different tastes.
Yeah, for sure.
But, what they're presenting, what they're doing shouldn't be considered just, what was I going to say? Just inherently disingenuous or inherently bad, which I think is kind of something that is assumed.
Like the word cheesy gets thrown around a little too
totally
often.
Yeah, cheesy, corny, all that stuff, bloated.
And sometimes it is,
Oh yeah, definitely.
30 Seconds to Mars.
Oh yeah. Oh god. Yeah.
See, that's the problem. If you in a post 30 Seconds to Mars era, you don't want to come off like that.
Yeah, no, and yeah, definitely. And to even throw one of my favorite bands under the bus, Muse has been guilty of it for sure. Of there is a way of doing something that's, Muse is bombast. Muse is over the top. And they've done that since the early 2000s with stuff like Absolution and Black Hole's Revelations, Origin of Symmetry. All the ones that are pretty much unanimously considered classics are also over the top and anthemic to a certain degree. But when they do over the top nowadays, I think it seems more...
Cock rock?
Yeah, you said it.
Look, I put it like that in my review. I'm sticking to it. Like, it's funny. I specifically remember the first time I heard Psycho. We were in the Miracosta like center court area, sitting at a bench, and you said, "Dude, this new Muse song is awesome."
No,
and you're like, "Dude, you gotta listen to this new Muse song," or like however you put it. And you gave me your phone, typed it in on YouTube. And I listened to it, and 5 minutes later, and a few "your ass belongs to me" nows later, I looked at you, and I was like, that was awesome.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And I don't think I've regretted 3 words more in my entire life.
Well, me too. Well, with what I said when I showed you the song. Basically, I will say that Psycho is Muse's single worst song.
Yeah. And
Matt Bellamy could write that song in 30 seconds while he's asleep.
And from what I gather, like, it was just like something that they like played live for like 15 seconds, and they probably did write in 30 seconds, but they were like, "Hey, let's make it a song."
No, but see, the thing is that the Psycho riff was, to the hardcore Muse fans listening, is known as the 030503 riff because that's the tablature, and that's what we called it. That's what we called it for years and years in the Muse fandom, and it was this awesome, just like
pump up. It's like a simple raw pump up that should not escape the live venue.
But they would attach it at the end of like Stockholm Syndrome, and it would be it would work. It would be perfect, and then they made it into a song, and they repeated and repeated and repeated, and it's just obnoxious, and it's just.
You know what it reminds me of is, so at the end of, and this is going to be like a totally random poll, but at the end of the Van Halen album, Women and Children First, after that last song, In a Simple Rhyme, which is a great song, there's like this 20-second thing at the end called Growth, I think is the name.
Okay.
It was like a hidden track, but it's barely even a song. It's like 20 seconds of like this riff that just goes like, dun, 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 and it's cool while it's there, but if they stretch that out into a full song, it would be one of the most boring of their career.
Yeah, but they kind of reeled it in and kept it.
And I'm including Van Halen 3 in that, by the way.
Okay. I see. Yeah, so I don't know, to kind of veer back to what we were talking about, there you could kind of look at music in these two ways. There's one, there's kind of like the more marketable side of music, the stuff like The Killers, and the more anthemic, traditionally structured music, and then
accessible.
Accessible. And then the
populist.
Yeah, exactly. The more experimental side. And if I'm talking about the stuff that I'm interested in and what I listen to day to day, I find myself listening to the more experimental side way more often. But I kind of have been forced recently to consider, why do I still have a Muse sticker on my car? If I prefer the other side of music more, why do I still find myself going back to the other stuff? And I kind of, what I came to was that it doesn't have to be this sharp divide between the two. You can be over the top, you can be anthemic, and you can still be tasteful and experimental and have really diverse influences and put together something that can reach across.
Yeah, and I feel like if anything, a lot of those divides, like even the bands that we're talking about, like do have those moments where they get a little bit more restrained or like get in a more eclectic territory, and it's the fans that kind of dictate those sharp divides, even when the band's going those styles. Like for example, just a few weeks ago on my I was putting my phone on shuffle in the back room at work, and Undisclosed Desires came on, and I was like, you know what? Screw what anyone said. This song is a jam.
Fantastic song. Yeah, I agree. Great song.
But it's, because they didn't have like a crazy guitar solo going on, and they decided to have more of like, I guess, a Timbaland style production going on.
Yeah.
And it was in 2009, so naturally, the fans didn't really take that well to it. And like even with Second Law, like you mentioned earlier, like that tour was like my favorite show I've ever been to.
Oh yeah, great show. I agree.
And like even though Drones is the last album they put out, which is by far my least favorite from them, like they're coming to Kaboo in Del Mar in a few months, and I'm seriously considering going to that mostly for Tom Petty, because I haven't seen him and I really want to see Tom Petty.
Live,
but Muse is a big part of that too.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, like even after a more subpar record.
Yes, definitely more subpar, but they still present it well. You know, when I saw them on the Drones tour, the thing that's nice about Matt Bellamy is that you can dislike the song on the album and the lyrics. Oh God, the lyrics. But when it's performed live, it's performed with total conviction, and he believes every word, and you can't help but kind of play along, no matter how kind of silly it comes across on the album sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And like another thing that kind of came to mind is that like my least favorite album of the year, and really my least favorite of the last few years, is Judah and the Lion. Their first record. I'm not sure how much you know from them.
They're the ones that sing
Take It All Back,
God.
Take It All Back,
that
Take It.
song. Okay, yeah.
It's one of the worst on there, but there's still quite a few that beat it. But
Okay,
anyway, so I just happened to be seeing them twice this year. It just happens to be that way.
Okay, yeah.
Because I saw them at SPF Festival back in May, I want to say May or June. And when I saw them there, I at least had the thought like, you know what? All these songs suck, but at least they're kind of giving their all.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So like that elevated from like a 2 to like a 3.5.
Wow, okay,
you know?
Yeah, that's fair. That is
Even
fair.
as they were playing songs like Reputation, I'm going to link you that song because I want you to feel my pain.
Oh man,
And I'm going to play a link of it here. I'm going to play a clip of it right here.
Okay.
New clothes on, I wanna look nice, so I go and set my mom. So I get my hair parted inside, shirt smelling like a mall.
I wonder how many people just unsubscribed. We just lost all our sponsorships. Sorry, Audible. Sorry, Lisa, Casper. I know you guys are conflicting companies. So that's a little weird, but still.
Uber and Lyft
Yeah.
sponsoring this
Coke and
podcast.
Pepsi.
Yeah.
Who are others? Oasis and Blur.
Muse, Radiohead.
Coldplay. The three of them.
Oh yeah, but their debut albums are all the same apparently.
Ha.
Or no,
And
yeah.
because Radiohead did dubstep all the time, so Muse was still ripping them off in the 2010s, man.
Also, can I just say really quick as an aside, it's so refreshing that Radiohead is still putting out like absolutely incredible music.
I didn't love the Moonshaped Pool as much as a lot of other people. I kind of get it. There are incredible moments on there, but I forgot if I explained. You know what? I explained it to Johnny, my usual co-host, in like a text conversation. But here's my thing with that record, and we're gonna get back to the regular conversation.
Sure,
but
sure.
But my thing with that album, and I kind of went through a bunch of our Radiohead albums to kind of reform my opinion on them because I hadn't listened to many full albums from them in a few years since it'd been 5 years since King of Limbs.
Okay.
But what I realized is that I kind of like Radiohead when they're on either extreme of the genre spectrum. So like their super electronic glitchy Kid A stuff I really like. The more like loose like rock bombastic stuff like Your Bends and like Hail the Thieves.
Yeah, Hail the Thieves.
And even stuff that like puts a lot of both of those in there, like OK Computer I really dig.
Yeah.
But what I found with a lot of Moonshaped Pool is that like it was kind of all in like this middle area where it didn't really sway me one way or the other outside a few tracks where they either went more in the electronic direction or more in the sad piano direction.
Right.
A lot of it just kind of hovered around in the middle for me. The funny thing is that I think I like Damn about as much, but I feel like I'm not sure which is the hotter take, honestly. I still gotta think about that.
I think you're more gonna you will be more readily crucified for criticizing Damn nowadays than criticizing the latest Radiohead record. So
Yeah, I suppose.
But to go back to Moonshaped Pool, you're not wrong for any of that. I think it is definitely like a mid-tempo album.
Yeah.
Apart from Burn the Witch. Burn the Witch.
Oh yeah, that was one of my favorites on there.
But it's really not indicative of the album at all.
Oh no, making it the opening track, and I know that they put it in alphabetical order, but making that the opening track was a little weird. Although I guess like where else on the album could it be?
Well,
like I feel like it would break up the flow.
Yeah,
if
it would.
It was anywhere else.
I like it as the opening track. In the alphabetical order thing, it's not. It still has a flow. Just the titles are in alphabetical order, but I don't think they let that dictate the flow of the album too much.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I like about Moonshaped Pool is that it's just so.
It's got a mood.
Sonically, it's so meticulous, and you can put on headphones and listen, and there's just like layer after layer after layer of things to delve into that you don't catch on the first or even 10th listen. It warrants many revisits, and it's just a blanket of sound, especially on stuff like Daydreaming.
Oh yeah, that was another one of my favorites.
And like the ending of Dex Dark, and it's just this awesome, just onslaught and this wave of sound. And then lyrically and thematically, if you are invested at all in Tom York and what he sings about in his, I guess personal life to a certain extent, or else, although I know he doesn't really like too much when people discuss that openly. A moon-shaped pool is
or
really
race relations, or wars in the Middle East in relation to his concerts. I imagine that's a little bit more annoying for him because that can actually probably get him killed by someone in the government.
Yeah, that's a little bit more of a
Pink
sensitive
Floyd.
topic, or Pink Floyd. God, yeah, which is, I love Roger Waters, but he's being ridiculous.
Honestly, the person I feel the most sorry for in this situation is Nigel.
Oh yeah, because he's got his foot in both camps.
Even Tom was like, dude, I love the guy. I've been working with him for 20 years, but things are a little weird right now because he produced your album.
Exactly. Yeah, but to get back to Moonshaped Pool really quick. Lyrically,
get back to the thing we strayed from the other thing on.
Yeah, it's whatever. That's how it goes.
This podcast.
If you listen to the Monday morning podcast with Bill Burr, it's even worse. But it's also really great.
I'm sure I'd love it.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway, so lyrically and thematically, it's such a uncensored view of Tom York and the stuff that he wants to sing about and the stories he wants to tell. Radiohead has that reputation of being, it's sad boy music, but I don't think he's been this open, and I kind of
they've been a little bit cryptic,
Yeah, much more cryptic, and Burn the Witch is really cryptic, but stuff like, okay, if you listen to Glass Eyes.
See, that's the one that I point to as like being the moment lyrically. That and True Love Waits.
Yep. Well, True Love Waits is a whole other story.
That's a whole other tangent.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those again, like those tracks where they go harder into the storytelling, harder into that sad boy piano mood, harder into the electronics in case of like or like the upbeat stuff in case of like Full Stop and Burn the Witch.
Yeah.
Like those are a lot. Those are a lot of my favorites, and I don't know if like. Honestly, I don't know if that's been like a changing general viewpoint of me lately, like between this and the All-Time Low thing, where I don't think they go hard enough into one direction or the other. And I feel like I've just been kind of getting less patient with like middle ground stuff. I'm not saying that the Radiohead album's safe by any means, but I think it's just like a changing kind of viewpoint that I've been having. Like, honestly, I brought up Damn earlier, and my thing with that is that like it doesn't go as hard into storytelling or hard into the great beats or as hard into like I feel like maybe my opinions have been getting a little less subtle lately. I don't know, which may make my reviews more entertaining, but I don't know. So like I'm not putting my opinions of this directly on Radiohead.
Oh no, totally. And and to me, a Moonshaped Pool sounds like a band that has been around for 20 plus years, 25 years, however long it's been, maybe even 30. I'm not really sure where
it's at. If you want to count on a Friday.
Yeah, I mean, we should, right? It sounds like a band that's been around for that long, totally honing in their craft and just presenting a like masterful presentation of what they wanted. You can tell it was a sound in Johnny and Tom York, and I don't know how much Ed has in the actual recording and writing process, but it's just they had this idea and they got it out exactly like they wanted to, and I can really respect that. And the production, I mean, Nigel's production is just immaculate across the whole thing, so that's why I like it. And that's
I don't really disagree with any of that. I was kind of talking more of a song by song basis. Now, how did that influence your music?
Yeah, so
let's get back on this.
So Moonshaped Pool really made me kind of reconsider layering in music. And my favorite album...
I didn't expect an actual answer to that.
Yeah, well, my favorite song on that album is The Numbers, which is a song that is kind of divisive, even in the Radiohead community. Tom York presented that track first when he was playing at Pathway to Paris, and he played an acoustic version of it called Silent Spring at the time. And the album version ended up being called The Numbers, and it's just way more layered and everything. And what that made me think of is, like, what does it mean for a song to be heavy? Like, what is heaviness in music? I think... if you're just getting into music and you hear the term heavy, you think distortion, you think
metal,
huge bass, pounding double bass drums,
growls, burning down churches,
or just all that, or even to a lesser extent, just riffs, like chunky riffs,
riffs with vibrations loud enough to burn down churches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the burning down churches is really like
it's kind of the end game.
It's the
honestly.
end game, always. And shout out Ghost.
Even though they're not that heavy.
No, they're not at all. But heaviness can be achieved in a lot of ways. And when I listen to that song, the way the bass comes in waves and the way that the synthesizers kind of flow in and out and Tom's vocal cues and all the layering and the laughing sound samples that are thrown in, and then especially when the string section hits, it's totally heavy and it's really impactful. And it's kind of like when I sit down and want to make something impactful, I think, how can I do this without taking shortcuts, or how can I do this in an unconventional way? And that's, if I were to say how a Moonshaped Pool influenced me at all, that's how it is. And I don't, it doesn't always show up necessarily explicitly in my music.
Yeah, because Surfacing came out like a month after that.
Yeah,
album?
a month after that.
So it's
but
like you were probably talking about Radiohead in general, I'm sure.
Yeah, Radiohead in general. Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, they've used that same strategy in their other music too.
Yeah.
Just start on Moonshaped Pool. Yeah. So and I mean, if you listen to my stuff, you'll definitely be able to pinpoint like, oh yeah, there's a Radiohead influence here.
Yeah, I guess if I was going to make like a top 5 along with like Muse and Silver Sun Pickups, that would definitely be one of those. And I do kind of want to talk about the last couple tracks on this Daybreaker EP.
Yeah.
Goodbye Casino and Casino Returns,
Yep.
which is like this 1.5 minute intro, Goodbye, and then Returns is this one that closes it out. It's like this 6-7 minute thing.
Yeah.
So I do get curious about like the titles behind instrumental pieces, and like because he did mention a backstory at the show you did at that Beatles fair.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure about all the details. Can you kind of go into that? Like, was it based on something like that really happened, or is it like kind of a story you made up? Or?
Yeah, it's a thing that's happening now actually. So one day I saw an advertisement at Cal State Long Beach for an event.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out.
Go to madsounds.com/Cal State Long Beach and you'll get free tuition.
I wish I had known that. So I saw a sign that was advertising this presentation in the auditorium. It was a radio show host and I really don't remember exactly the company name now, but they're affiliated with NASA in some way, or not necessarily with NASA, but with, I think, Bill Nye. So they were talking about this light sail product they were putting out, but he was also just talking about why like space exploration is important nowadays and why it's important for young people to get into it. And one thing he mentioned was this satellite called Cassini that is currently orbiting Saturn that NASA sent out a number of years ago. I don't exactly know when. When he told us this story, he said that NASA sent out this satellite to gather information around Saturn, but they sent it out with the knowledge that it would not be returning. And I thought, if we are to personify this satellite and not treat it as an object, that's like heartbreaking, That's because he doesn't know.
Imagine you just let your mind run wild with like sort of a, I don't know, I'm getting kind of a Wall-E vibe.
Yeah, definitely. It evokes images of Wall-E for sure.
Yeah.
And so if I kind of tried to put personality into this satellite, and he's out there, doing his job, gathering this important data for us, and he's just working really hard every day without the knowledge that one day he's just going to like kind of crash into an asteroid and burn up into nothing. And
well, when you put it that way,
so
sounds kind of depressing.
It is very depressing. So that's why we have that intro track, Goodbye Cassini, and there's a little vocal sample at the beginning with that female voice going, "It doesn't know," which is a little bit ambiguous. So it doesn't know. That intro is supposed to, like I said earlier, evoke images of this satellite being sent out into space. And I'm almost imagining that there's a presence there, there's someone there kind of having an issue with it, saying, but it doesn't know, like it doesn't know that it'll never return. Saying it makes it sound like it's this huge dramatic thing, but really it's just, it's a piece of metal.
It would be a really dumb decision if they actually gave them like human intelligence to be able to have the feeling of missing. It
was just an exercise in kind of empathy towards something that does not feel. And so that Cassini Returns song at the end, a really long one, is just a fictional scenario where this thing finds its way back and it is crashing through the atmosphere and lands on Earth. And there's a really heavy section in there with this big riff, and it's kind of
that Meteor, not Meteor, it's crashing like a meteor with the Meteor sound.
There we go.
I got to use that somewhere. I'm not sure how. Maybe it'll be the title of the episode. Meteor sounds. That'll be the name of our astrology podcast.
Right, that's coming out next week, right?
Sure. Just subscribe to Patreon, and that'll be a bonus.
Yep.
I probably shouldn't joke about that. That's actually kind of a realistic thing.
Yeah, it's okay.
Anyway. But now musically, again, like with that track, like it probably goes through the most, like next to Surfacing, it definitely goes through like the most changes.
Yeah, that track
on any
is,
song there. Like you, that's one where you bring in the piano, for
yeah.
example, and you get a lot more of that Muse stuff with like the dichotomy between the piano being all more dramatic and then the guitar coming in and
yeah.
Bass.
Yeah, that was really a challenging song, both to like perform live and to record, because that song there's a lot in that, and it's long, and it kind of felt like the thing I kept saying when I was recording that song, mostly with Anthony. Recording that song and making it sound good felt like trying to navigate this giant cruise ship that just wants to topple over at every turn. It like wants to fall and not make sense, but you have to make sure that it is cohesive. That's really difficult.
I'm sure there were like points where like you wanted to try to add a part that sounded really cool in your head, but like ended up just not really fitting with the rest of it.
Yeah, that definitely happens.
Yeah,
because
like with the closing track of my album, for example, like it's this like multi-part thing, and you know, again, there are verses and choruses and everything to pull together, but it is kind of a similar thing of like making sure that everything has the right momentum. Like if it has a tempo change, does it not break the flow, or there's like something like that, because you know there are some changes like that in your EP. Like I forgot which track it was. It might have been the one in the middle. I forgot the exact
Cloudburst.
Cloudburst. I think it was that one where like it starts with like a 6/8 beat,
yeah,
then turns
like
into a 4/4 thing.
Yep.
Like little things like that.
Yeah.
Whenever there's like a 6/8 thing, but it isn't just like a da 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 da. You know, like it's not just like an extended 3/4 thing, but it's an actual weirdo groove that has 6 beats in it.
I think this one qualifies for a weirdo groove in the beginning. It's really off kilter. Probably our favorite, next to Surfing Sucks, probably our favorite one to perform live, because it's just...
Is Surfing Sucks going to get a studio recording, by the way?
Yeah, that's coming soon. Stay tuned.
I imagine it wouldn't really be quite in place as like the third in the trilogy with Cassini.
Yeah, it's a little jarring. It's a little jarring to put into...
Although he could very easily be celebrating when he lands, you know?
Yeah, just goes for a swim.
And just coming to the realization that Surfing sucks because it makes me rust.
There you go. Maybe I'll just give you that song and you can do it. That story.
It's kind of like the reverse of like those crappy sequels where it's like character goes to the moon or character goes to space. It could be the opposite of character goes to Earth.
It's like, well, and it takes place at the beach too. A robot at the beach is kind of like a Sharknado thing.
You got to pitch that, man.
Surfing Sucks.
I think realistically they're taking any pitch that comes to them.
Oh, I know. Well, now they're so self-aware that it's just like it's not even funny anymore.
I mean, it wasn't really in the first place.
The first one, I guess. I haven't even seen it, but apparently it's pretty good.
But it's like if you're making it and you know it's bad, it kind of takes the fun.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
I went to a screening of The Room in January, and that is a true bad movie.
Yeah.
Like especially with the fans throwing spoons at the screen and stuff. And I talked about it in a few episodes of the podcast ago, so I won't recap all of it now. But it's like when like they know that's bad, it's like.
So
it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work, and it won't reach people. But the thing about The Room that is transcendent, if you will, is that Tommy Wiseau, right? Is that his name? The guy who made it. He genuinely thought he was making a great movie, but. Look where we are. People talk about The Room. In fact, James and Dave Franco are putting together The Disaster Artist, a movie about the making of The Room.
And I'm going to see that opening day.
Of course, so will I. And it's just, you can say that that's a terrible movie, and it is, but it's spawning all this discussion, which I think kind of segues into something else I wanted to talk about if I could.
I mean, I did kind of want to bring up one other thing. I'm sorry, and we'll definitely go right to that. Last night, genuine shout out to Spectrum Pulse. He put out one of his greatest reviews ever of the AJR album.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out.
It was his first 1 out of 10.
Ooh.
It was this 20-minute, just non-stop, like, hellfire rant that was kind of amazing. I basically felt both more glad and more regretful that I didn't do the same thing for Judah and the Lion, because I hated it for most of the same reasons, as far as being like the worst of wimpy modern indie pop.
Yeah.
That doesn't really take responsibility for itself.
Yeah, agreed.
But anyway, in that, he was saying that, comparing it to other albums you would typically expect to be, the worst thing he's ever reviewed. Like, at least the Corey Feldman album is so bad it's good, so it kind of has that kind of enjoyment.
Yep.
And Whereas, this is just kind of sad and annoying. And I kind of felt the same way. You guys that listen to the podcast know that I basically spent an hour talking to Johnny about the new Train album, and that is enjoyable in about the same way. Not that I'd give it more than like a 4.5 out of 10. God, no.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep at night.
I would hope not. Yeah.
But the same reason why I prefer that over Judah and the Lion, or it's kind of similar idea of like why you prefer a Room to a Sharknado.
Yes,
and that like at least you're indirectly getting enjoyment, even though it's not for all the right reasons. But the net result is kind of a positive in a weird sadist kind of way.
Yeah, and you can dislike the final product of something all you want, but you can find respect in the person behind it if you feel they presented it in a genuine way. That's to go back to the Room and Sharknado, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, what's the point you were making? Kind of similar, kind of in that same area.
Well, I was gonna kind of veer it back to why we make instrumental music.
I'll let you do that.
Okay,
I'll shut up.
So, for the record, first of all, my end goal with music is not to be an instrumental musician. I love writing lyrics and singing. It's just kind of a mental thing at this point, and figuring that out. But the thing to start off with the Room and Sharknado, this is a very interesting jumping off point, but it
very
works.
Timely.
Yeah. So the Room is something that was, as we said, made by someone who genuinely thought it was great. So there is to a certain extent, there's real emotion behind that. The end product is bad.
It does kind of go back to the conversation we're having about sincerity, and that at least if it's terrible, like you at least have that kind of empathy as an artist, knowing like, okay, at least you gave it your all, and I can kind of respect that.
Yeah. So sincerity
in a weird way.
Yeah, exactly. So if something is presented with sincerity, people will. I think sincerity is more important than the stylistic nature of something. People will respond to sincerity in whatever medium you present if they pick up on that sincerity. So with instrumental music, when you don't have something overt like lyrics or singing to tell the listener what you were trying to say, you have to approach sincerity in a different way. So like I said, all the songs start with a feeling, and then that feeling eventually unfolds into a song, eventually unfolds into an EP. And so if I can, at the first stage, write something with sincerity that is coming from something within myself, people will hopefully pick up on that. And then the beauty of instrumental music kind of takes the front seat there, because once they've picked up on a baseline of sincerity, then it's up to them to decide what it means. It's really not even mine anymore, which is great, which I love, because it means something to me. And the title of the EP, everything means something to me, but once the listener has it in their ears, it's whatever they want.
And I guess the cool thing about the instrumental stuff is that it leaves more open to interpretation. Like there is
totally.
because like as cool as it is to hear like an artist's story directly told through that as kind of a therapeutic thing, like it can be kind of cool. Like for example, like the last 1975 album, it had its instrumental pieces, and on those, like I was able to take the titles of those and kind of figure out how they apply to the general arc of the album, and my interpretation could be wildly different from someone else's.
Right.
But it's like I kind of got my own thematic ideas from the titles on those.
And I'm really not a 1975 fan, but those ambient interludes I really enjoyed.
Yeah. That said, what is surfacing?
So surfacing to me, whether
I mean that as literally as possible.
What is surfacing?
What is surfacing in that song? The fans want to know.
Yeah. Oh, the fans want to know. They're
you gotta fill their headcanon.
They're banging at the door. That has a very literal meaning to me. But I don't think people would even benefit from knowing that. Surfacing, what is the meaning of the word surfacing? Something coming from below and bursting out of the top, out of the surface. It's something that you can't ignore. It's kind of like a feeling that scratches away inside of you and kind of manifests itself into something very real, physically, emotionally, whatever, until it can't be ignored anymore. And I think that's kind of whatever people are dealing with. I mean, you could interpret it, let's say, in a kind of relationship way, whether it's the the inception of a relationship or the deterioration of it, at some point there is a point where you acknowledge a feeling within yourself, and then that kind of builds into something real, whether it's realizing that you love somebody or realizing that you don't anymore. And the end product of that, or that process of realizing what is inside and then acting upon it and having it and seeing it culminate into something real, is kind of at the center of anything that has ever happened and will ever
cool,
happen.
but I was talking about what the literal thing is
Nothing.
that's surfing. I know that we're in college,
It's
but
a
don't tell me
submarine.
that you changed your major to philosophy.
No, it's a submarine. There you go.
Thank you. That's really the end result of this podcast. That's really
It's
all
not
I've
a
been hanging up to.
submarine.
But no, like yeah, again, that's kind of like a nice interpret, especially with like how it rises and falls and everything. It does kind of fit with that as kind of culmination of stuff coming together. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah.
But oh yeah. So if we're gonna go in one more kind of technical direction, like how'd you go about recording this particular EP?
Well, I see your nice little red Scarlet Focusrite 2i2.
Go to madsounds.com/Scarlet.
Yep.
Focusrite.
Yep.
Or Focusrite Scarlet.
My trusty Focusrite.
And you'll get a third channel on your interface
Yep. There we go.
for half off.
Jeez, that's pretty good. I think a lot of people use that. It's really reliable. It sounds great. You have to make sure you got your gain levels correct, or else everything's going to sound overblown.
You
And
throwing shade, boy?
I am.
At our audio test from earlier?
Oh yeah. That thing was blinking.
Get out of my
red.
house.
That thing was blinking red, and your guest had to point it out.
This is my first time operating like this. You see these laser like cords flying around everywhere. Don't test me, boy.
I know, it's fine. Anyway, so I got that. As far as a guitar, I use my Fender Jazzmaster that I absolutely love. It's the best guitar ever made. The Jazzmaster, best shape ever. I also use a Fender Duo Sonic.
Again, you're saying that looking at my dinky little red thing. What are you trying to say, buddy?
Nothing. You're putting words in my mouth.
Look, I'm trying to get these headlines, man. I'm trying to get these titles.
Your guitar is called a Slammer. You can't beat that. If you see something called Slammer versus something called Jazzmaster, you're gonna go to Slammer.
Listen, this was a very nice gift from Ethan Bradbury.
Oh my god!
I'm sorry. Was that a relevant reference?
Yeah, it was. I think your audience.
I'm such an edgelord loser.
No, I got it. Don't worry.
Thank you.
But anything Fender and offset and kind of surfy, I'm automatically very, very into. I think humbuckers are good, and actually my Duo Sonic has a humbucker and I use it. But I like achieving like heaviness and distortion through a single coil because it's a challenge, and you get something that sounds like glass shattering and like just really intense and nasty.
Yeah.
And it's a really genuine distortion. And
yeah, you gotta know to get both ends of that, because like I ended up renting an amp for long story short. I ended up renting an amp for one day when I was recording, just because the one we were using there were some weird connection issues. I recorded about 2 of the songs from that, re-recorded them, and I was like, oh, this is what good distortion sounds like. Also, keep note of that.
Yeah, I know. The thing about the recording process that I think a lot of people that don't make music don't understand is that the amount of effort and time it takes,
The tone
for something not to just sound like total crap, is a lot. It's a lot. Because you can write as much music as you want, and if you want to present it out there, unless you're okay with doing something really, really lo-fi, which is cool. Like I like a ton of lo-fi music. I think it's great. But if you want to try to make something a little bit more polished, it just, especially if you don't have a professional resources or someone to do it for you, it takes a long time. But it's a labor of love, and it's worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it.
Yeah, because like to give you a good idea, like of course schedules and stuff got in the way, but it technically took 10 months for this album to get recorded, and like 80% of the instruments were laid down the first 2.
Yeah, that's crazy. But that I know how that goes, because that last 6 months is just ironing everything else out, and that takes forever.
Yeah, and like getting those tones just right in like ways that you didn't even know were a thing before. Yeah. But yeah, you know, it's been about an hour. I think we got a good idea, guys. Definitely check out the Daybreaker EP, the Surfacing EP. Both of them they're kind of in their own styles, so I'd recommend checking out both. I believe that they're pretty cheap on Bandcamp. Yeah,
Bandcamp, $5 on Bandcamp. You get 3 free listens, and then if you want to throw $5 our way, that would be great.
Yeah. And also one other track that I forgot to mention that I like from Surfacing Fuchsiaverse. That one in a way I kind of consider that your like undisclosed desires of like if some like indie R&B singer were to like make like a pop song over that, I could kind of picture it.
Oh, totally. And I definitely plan on revisiting that song later on in my musical, whatever this is.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoy that melody, and it needs to be something else one day.
Yeah, it's kind of nice little... Okay, guys, if you like this episode of Mad Sounds, really if you like this kind of artist interview style, because I think this went over pretty well, even though, it's someone I'd known for like 3 years.
I disagree. I think it was a disaster.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
This
was the Sharknado 5... even though it could have been The Room.
You need to do The Room, and you're just doing Sharknado. You need to get on The Room.
Deep. That's got to be like, that sounds like a line in a really try hard kiss off anthem where it's like, you think you're The Room, but you're really Sharknado.
Oh man, I love it.
You can picture it. You can picture that line in some pop punk band on Warped Tour.
Totally.
In an attempt to connect with the teens.
Oh man.
Yeah,
let's hope that never sees the light of day.
I want to see that done sincerely, just to see, like, we can be better than something.
Yeah, you could do it.
But yeah, guys, check out his stuff. I'm going to be announcing more about my stuff later on. It's just nice to connect with other musicians in my kind of place.
Yeah.
And if you like this more kind of conversation interview based thing, I'm planning on doing a couple more of those in the future. If you're listening on YouTube, I strongly recommend subscribing on iTunes. If you're listening on iTunes, check out Spinner Reviews. I just put out a video. Again, I just put out a video today on the new All Time Low album where I talk about a couple of the same kind of topics that we did here, as well as a podcast I did in real life with Crash Thompson, aka The Rock Critic. Leave your thoughts in like a rating or a review. That'd be really helpful, and a comment just for general feedback. Check out Christian's stuff again. And is there anything you want to say as the outro music plays?
Yeah, just thank you so much for listening. Thank you for having me on. I love talking about this stuff because I don't really get a chance to do it very often. Thank you so much for listening to our band, my solo stuff. Support San Diego music, support local music.
Yeet. And
yeah, support your friends that are making music because it's hard, and it's not that hard to, support your friends. So do it.
Yeah, pay for it on Bandcamp, please.
Yeah.
We give really good deals.
It's like a cup of Starbucks coffee. You can do it.
And this will actually be good.
Yes. Oh,
like
there
that.
you go.
Dang,
Sorry, Starbucks. Starbucks is one of your sponsors, so that's kind of risky of you to say that. So.
Nah, man, I'm going indie with.
No, shut up, Pete's.
Listen, man, I'm going indie with Pete's. Okay,
there we go. Pete's Coffee.
Pete's.com/madsounds.
Greater
you
than.
give them a card with that URL at the cashier stand, and they'll give you one extra squirt of chocolate syrup on your frap.
That's right. Tell them Mark sent you.
Bye.
Bye.